We're counting down the top 10 wildest restricted lakes in America where the surface looks calm, but the rules are incredibly strict. Most people see a lake and think of fishing, swimming, or just relaxing on the bank. But in certain places, that assumption leads to fines, trespassing charges, or immediate removal. Some of these lakes protect nuclear stations, others feed drinking water to massive cities, and some are simply private property disguised as nature. The gap between what you see and what the law allows is where people get in trouble. You might see a perfect cove, but the censors see a security breach. You might see a hiking trail, but the map sees a biological protection zone. This list breaks down the specific reasons these waters stay locked down or heavily controlled. We are looking at the engineering, the ownership, and the biology that keeps the gates closed right now. The number one spot goes to a reservoir so protected that the state passed a specific law just to keep people out of the woods. Let's begin with number 10. Fact number 10. Summit Lake's seasonal roadblock. Summit Lake in West Virginia looks like a year-round destination on the map. The water itself is described as open all year. That creates a simple expectation. You pack the truck, grab the gear, and head out for a winter trip. But the reality on the ground is different. While the lake technically stays open, the world around it shuts down. The campground beside the water follows a seasonal closure pattern. Gates often lock in late October or November. Here's the thing. The closure is not just about locking a bathroom door. It is about the road. The Forest Service does not typically treat the access road for snow in the winter. That means the barrier isn't a law against seeing the water. It is the snow itself. Over 100 inches of snow can fall in this part of the mountains. That is more than 8 feet of accumulation. So the road becomes impassable for normal vehicles. The result is a place that is open on paper, but effectively closed by conditions. This matters because it catches people off guard. They see open year-round and assume the infrastructure stays running. But the trash service stops, the toilets lock, the fee station closes. If you manage to reach the water on foot or with a specialized rig, you are on your own. Dispersed camping might be legal nearby, but the safety net of a developed site is gone. This situation is still happening today. Every winter, the snow falls, the gates lock, and the lake becomes a quiet, isolated spot that demands self-reliance. It shows how access depends more on a plow truck than a permission slip. Fact number 9. Hopewell Lake's pool substitute. Hopewell Lake in Pennsylvania sits inside French Creek State Park. It looks like the perfect spot to jump in on a hot July day. The shoreline is green, the water is wide, and the park is busy. But if you jump in, you are breaking the rules. Swimming is prohibited in the lake itself. That sounds strange for a major state park. Usually, a lake means a beach. The reason is a mix of safety hazards and water quality management. Lakes like this can hide submerged trees, sudden drop-offs, and variable bottom conditions. Those things make open water swimming risky, without heavy supervision. Runoff can also change water quality after storms, so the park manages this risk by creating a separate lane for swimmers. They don't just ban swimming, they move it. A large pool sits right near the lake. It has lifeguards, treated water, and controlled depth. This setup splits the recreation. Boating and fishing stay on the lake. Swimming goes to the pool. That distinction matters right now. It keeps boats away from swimmers, which reduces accidents. It also means the park doesn't have to test the lake water for E. coli every single morning. The pool is open seasonally, usually from Memorial Day to Labor Day. That is the window when most people want to swim anyway. The reward is understanding that the ban isn't about ruining fun. It is about putting people in a place where the variables are controlled. You can still fish from a boat. You can still paddle. But if you want to get wet, you have to go to the concrete pond. This rule remains strict today, and it keeps the lake safer for the boaters and the pool safer for the swimmers. Fact number 8. Lake Junaluska's private shore. Trap. Lake Junaluska in North Carolina creates one of the most confusing boundaries in the region. The lake surface is about 200 acres. It is described as open to the public for boating and fishing, so you launch a kayak, you paddle around. Everything feels like a normal public lake day. Then you decide to pull over to a dock for a break or step onto a lawn to stretch your legs. That is the moment the trap snaps shut. The water is open, but the land is private. The shoreline is a mix of private residential lots and grounds owned by the Lake Junaluska Assembly. Private homes have deed covenants that control their property. Here's the thing. A dock is not public property just because it touches public water. It is an extension of the land. So stepping onto a dock is trespassing. Stepping onto a private lawn is trespassing. Security patrols monitor these boundaries. They can issue trespass notices if someone refuses to leave or violates conduct rules. The result is a lake that feels open only as long as you stay in the boat. The moment you touch the edge, you enter a different legal zone. This is still happening today. The community is active, and the property lines are enforced. Even the boating has a strictest cap. Gas motors are often limited to very low speeds, like 5 miles per hour. That keeps the noise down and the wakes small. It prevents the lake from turning into a speedway. This shows how a place can welcome visitors while still protecting the privacy of the people who live there. The penalty for missing this detail is a calm conversation with security, or a trespassing charge if you argue. Fact number 7. Lake Tahoma's gated fortress. Lake Tahoma in North Carolina takes the private concept and builds a wall around it. This is not a town lake. It is a private lake inside a private development. From the road, it looks like any mountain reservoir: trees, water, mountains. But the ownership structure changes the rules completely. The lake is managed through a homeowners association. Access is limited to owners, their families, and their guests. That means the general public has no automatic right to enter. There is no boat ramp for outsiders. There is no public fishing pier. The result is a perimeter that acts like a border. Patrols monitor the area to deter trespass, vandalism, and unauthorized fishing. This sounds extreme for a quiet lake, but it fits the money logic. Residents pay dues to maintain the dam, the roads, and the security. They are funding the privacy, so security becomes part of the maintenance budget, just like mowing the grass. This setup keeps the lake exclusive. It prevents overcrowding. It prevents party traffic from clogging the narrow mountain roads. The prompt mentions that other private communities in the region, like Lake Toxaway, patrol miles of roads to do the same thing. It is a regional pattern. If you try to sneak a boat in, you are not just breaking a rule. You are using a paid amenity you didn't pay for. That's why the patrols are there right now. They protect the asset. The lake remains quiet today because the gate remains closed. It shows that in the mountains, the best view often comes with a membership fee. Fact number 6. Rocky Fork's invisible zoning Rocky Fork in Tennessee covers 10,000 acres of wild watershed. It became a state park relatively recently, in 2019. It is famous for being wild and rugged, but it is also famous for a list of rare and endangered species that live there. Peregrine falcons, eastern hellbender salamanders, Yonahlossee salamanders. Usually, when you hear endangered species, you expect to see keep out signs. You expect closed trails and locked gates. Rocky Fork flips that. The park stays open year-round. You can hike, you can fish, you can climb. The trick is invisible zoning. Instead of closing the whole park, managers use specific rules to protect specific spots. Peregrine falcons nest on cliffs, so climbers have rules about where they can top out and what trees they can use for anchors, but climbing is still allowed. Hellbenders live under rocks in the streams. They breathe through their skin, so clean water is critical. Anglers are told to use clean waders to stop disease spread, and sediment is managed by keeping trails stable. The result is a park that works for both people and animals. You stay on the trail to protect the salamanders in the leaf litter. You stay out of the wetlands to protect the star-nosed mole. This system is active right now. It relies on visitors following the rules without a fence forcing them to. It shows that you don't always need a lock to save a species. You just need a plan. The watershed remains one of the wildest places in the East, and it remains open today because the management is precise, not panic-driven. Fact number 5, Burnsville Lake's dam zone. Burnsville Lake in West Virginia looks like a standard Army Corps of Engineers project. It has boat ramps, fishing spots, and plenty of open water. But if you drift too close to the dam, the game changes instantly. The water near the dam structure is a restricted exclusion zone. It is marked by buoys and signs. That line is not a suggestion. It is a federal safety boundary. The gap here is thinking that just looking is okay. A boat might idle toward the dam for a photo, but the wind pushes it across the line. The response can include an immediate stop, a vessel inspection, and an escort out of the area. But it gets crazier. The financial stakes are huge. Violations can lead to fines up to $5,000. $5,000. That is the price of a decent used boat. There is also the threat of vessel impoundment in serious cases. That means they can take your boat. The reason is turbulence. The water near a dam intake or spillway can move in unpredictable ways. It can suck a boat in or spin it around. There is also the security aspect. Dams are critical infrastructure. They protect towns downstream from flooding. So the authorities, often USAC rangers or state DNR officers, do not take chances. They enforce the line strictly. This is happening right now. The buoys are in the water today. The patrol boats are running. The reward for knowing this is simple. Stay away from the buoys. The view is not worth the fine. It shows how a fun weekend can turn into a legal nightmare just by drifting 50 feet too far. Fact number 4, West Fork, Eno's Buffer Myth. The West Fork Eno Reservoir in North Carolina has a strange reputation. People hear that it is illegal to touch the water. Stories spread about federal laws banning any contact. That sounds like a sci-fi movie. The reality is more boring, but more important. The ban is not federal. It is local. The town of Hillsborough owns the reservoir as a drinking water source. They protect it with a strict set of rules. No boating, no fishing, no swimming, no wading. But the real work is done by the land, not the law. A conservation easement wraps around the water. It creates a 100-foot buffer zone. That is the length of a football field wrapped around the shoreline. This buffer is kept natural. No development, no trails, no recreation. Here's the thing, that land acts as a filter. It catches runoff, dirt, and oil before it hits the lake. Vegetation slows the rain. Roots hold the soil. The result is cleaner raw water entering the treatment plant. This lowers treatment costs and reduces risks for the people drinking it. So the no-touch rule is really a stay-off-the-bank rule. By keeping people out of the buffer, they keep the water pure. Trespass laws are used to enforce it. The town doesn't need a special water crime. They just use private property rights. This remains true today. The buffer is still there, growing trees and filtering rain. It shows that the best technology for clean water is often just a strip of woods that nobody is allowed to walk on. Fact number 3. Lake Keowe's nuclear intakes. Lake Keowee in South Carolina is a massive recreation lake. It covers 18,000 acres. It is full of boats, jet skis, and fishing tournaments. But tucked away in certain coves, the rules shift gears. This lake was built to cool the Oconee nuclear station. That power plant needs a steady flow of water to operate. It pulls water in, and it pushes warm water out. The intake zones are marked by buoys and skimmer walls. These are not normal no-wake zones. They are no-entry zones. The intake structures sit deep underwater, reaching down 150 feet. They pull massive volumes of water. A boat getting too close could strike debris, screens, or interfere with the flow. Even the wake from a boat can push trash into the wrong place. The discharge side is also tricky. The water comes out warm. People call it the hot tub. It is tempting to swim there, but the currents can be strong, and the area is restricted for safety. Crossing these buoy lines can result in misdemeanor charges and fines. State wildlife officers enforce them. The plant security team also watches. This is critical infrastructure. The exclusion zones are usually 500 to 1,000 feet wide. That gives a safety buffer. This is happening right now. The nuclear station is running today. The pumps are pulling water today. So the buoys remain non-negotiable. It shows that even on a fun lake, the industrial purpose comes first. You can play on 99% of the water, but the last 1% belongs to the grid. Fact number 2. Table Rock's sealed laboratory, Table Rock Reservoir in South Carolina, takes the drinking water concept to the extreme. This is not just a no-swimming lake. It is a no-everything lake. Greenville Water owns it. They treat the watershed like a clean room. There is no public access allowed for any reason. No tours, no hiking, no fishing, no boating. The shoreline is the boundary. The moment you step onto the shore, you are trespassing on protected utility land. The prompt notes that nearly 750,000 people rely on this water system. That is a massive population. With that many people depending on the tap, the utility takes zero risks. They keep the watershed uninhabited. No homes, no farms. That means no septic tanks and no fertilizer runoff. The result is raw water that is incredibly clean before it even reaches the plant. Enforcement is tight. Patrols, cameras, and drones monitor the perimeter. If you try to sneak in, you aren't just hiking. You are compromising a supply line. The viral stories about armed standoffs are exaggerations, but the security is real. They want quiet compliance. They want you to leave. This rule is still in effect today. The reservoir sits there looking pristine and wild, but it is actually a working machine. It proves that the cleanest water doesn't come from technology alone. It comes from solitude. The best way to keep water clean is to keep people completely away from it. Fact number 1. North. Saluta's lawful lockdown. North Saluda Reservoir sits near Table Rock and follows the same strict logic, but it earns the number 1 spot because of how the law has evolved to protect it. Like Table Rock, it is a total exclusion zone. No boating, fishing, or swimming. But in 2023, South Carolina added a specific tool to the enforcement kit. A new law targeted willful trespass on public water utility property. This statute, referenced as Section 1611-735, created a specific misdemeanor for this act. It comes with graduated fines. The first offense can cost you hundreds, the second offense costs more, a third offense can go over $1,000. This layers on top of normal trespass rules. It sends a clear message. This is not a park. North Saluda is about 890 acres of water. It looks like a dream fishing spot. But that temptation's exactly what the law fights. The utility uses fences, gates, and modern monitoring to catch people. The gap here is the public label. People hear public utility and think public access. But the land is private property owned by the water system. The purpose is public health, not public recreation. This system is operating right now. The law is on the books. The fines are real. It shows the ultimate trade-off. To have reliable, clean tap water for 750,000 people, one beautiful lake has to stay completely empty. The wildest thing about this lake is that its most important feature is the absence of humans.